Hey everyone, Avatar Guy here. Today I'm with Joshua Izzo, who is going to tell us exactly what he does because I'll butcher it. And we're here in London before the Avatar concert, and we're going to ask him some questions, find out about what he does. So yeah,
Lightstorm Entertainment is Jim Cameron and the late John Landau's production company. And that is where all of the pictures and all of the shows and all of the business of Jim and John's productions are run out of. I am the executive vice president of franchise development, and the franchise development division was set up in 2010 by John and Jim after Avatar came out.
Right.
What happened was that 20th Century Fox had released all of the merchandising and all of the theatrical promotions and all of the partnerships and for Avatar. And it was, at the time, sort of a glorious disaster. I mean, it's not hard to understand. Nobody knew what Avatar was.
right.
And at the time, 20th Century Fox, they put out a full court press. Everything you could possibly imagine, from cereal to Happy Meals, kids' meals,
Yeah.
all around the world. Action figures from Mattel. Hallmark did, party patterns, plates, and all. Suffice to say, the world at large didn't quite grasp onto that as everyone thought it was going to. So what John and Jim did is they said, we need a little bit more oversight in terms of what's going to be happening with our brands.
Right.
And so they created the franchise division. And my previous boss, her name is Kathy Franklin. She was the previous president of franchise development. She was brought on. She was ex of Disney. She had done some amazing work with them to kind of set the tone and strategy for all of John and Jim's businesses and their brands, and also to ensure kind of the filmmaker's vision is seen across everything that we oversee.
Right.
So our team now that we are partnering with Disney, we are in charge of, everything, including but not limited to all of consumer products, video games, digital and interactive, location-based experiences, such as the thing that we're all going to go see tonight, Avatar live in concert from Avex International. And then we also touch various other parts of the businesses, like our theme parks.
Right.
So we oversee and manage all of the consumer products and merchandise and site-specific things at Pandora, the World of Avatar,
Right.
out at Disney's Animal Kingdom. And then we have a light touch with theatrical marketing and with partnerships and promotions with Disney. So if you're looking, if there's, buses that go by one day that have Avatar things on them, we will have looked or maybe helped with the asset delivery for that.
Right.
But, all of those things start and stop with our division.
Yeah.
Assets come from us, things get delivered to other partners. We are just in charge of kind of soup to nuts, the Avatar universe, and ensure that everything is seen the way it should be seen. It varies project by project, and kind of item by item, as it were. I liaise specifically with Jim when it comes directly to story, because everything in Jim's world is canonical to Jim in his own story universe.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing derivative content or I'm working on content for things like the video games or the comic books or any type of publishing, Jim reads all of it. Full stop. So Jim reads every comic, he looks at all the scripts, he makes notes, he ensures that his world is consistent with his world vision, because it is his world. And we're just working within it to create new and interesting kind of parts and pieces of it to support his core vision, which is the film.
Yeah.
The film is the core vision. Everything else is supportive around it. Before John passed, he really was kind of the driver behind the franchise division. So there were certain pieces of the business that he really enjoyed, like the theme parks. And then there were certain things that he just left us, our division, to our own devices.
Yeah.
So consumer products or other things, t-shirts, apparel, accessories. We would have our style guide. We know the brand, better than anyone else.
Yeah.
And then we would just go work with the partner, work with Disney, work with retail, and just get it out the door, approve it, and make sure that it looks and feels like Avatar. We have a new division president. She's actually an old friend. She's worked with Jim and John for 40 plus odd years. Her name is Ray Sankini. She's the new division president
Right.
of Lightstorm Entertainment.
Yeah.
She's getting up to speed on kind of all of these new processes as well. So Ray and John, I would show to them the very high level story things.
Yeah.
So for Frontiers of Pandora or some other, other content, here's the big 40,000 foot view. It would be signed off by the filmmaker. And then when we get into scripts and some of the other kind of the next layers down of our particular production or our process, that would just be handled day in and day out by myself and our team.
Okay, that makes sense. Ray, I think, worked on Titanic.
Yes,
her name
she
comes
produced-
from that.
yeah,
she
she produced
the
Titanic.
Oscars is in
Yeah,
the famous speech.
that's right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So I mean, that gives me. I think I'd be excited knowing that. Like,
Yeah,
that's
Ray's back. Ray came back to Lightstorm to help John during his illness, and
Right.
she's stayed on now to kind of help see through Avatar: Fire and Ash.
Right. It's one of the things that strikes me about Jim in general is that you can tell that he forms these really strong friendships and relationships over time,
Yes.
both behind the camera and in front of the camera.
Very much so.
Like all the people, like Sigourney, obviously coming back in Avatar, but yeah, working with people from all the way to Titanic.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, the authenticity of who he is and both the message of the movie and his writing always seems to really come through.
Mhm.
And it's like there's a deeper level of consistency, not just with the franchising and the brand, but
Very much so.
the actual values that are held by the creators.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm obviously biased, and I understand that, but it always feels to me that when I see merchandise or things around Avatar, like the shoes that were put out, where the shoes are vegan and
Kariuma, yes.
Kariuma, yeah. That you can, it just feels very much consistent. You don't go, that's kind of strange, like, oh, it doesn't fit into the world.
Right.
Like, so there's none of that there. Whereas with some other things, it's funny when you see, like, I don't know, just Spider-Man toy, and you go like, why is that a Spider-Man thing? It doesn't make any sense. So I think a huge credit to what you guys do and the vision that you have, especially from the disaster part of the movie, which, I don't know, do you think it was because the first movie was such a success, it was almost like it wasn't anticipated to be as big as it was?
In 2009, there was something called Avatar Day. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it wasn't Avatar Day in the sense that it was like a celebratory
No,
holiday.
yes.
It was a day from 20th century marketing because nobody understood what the word avatar meant in the context of what Jim was trying
And they
to
showed
do.
a segment of the movie.
They showed
right?
about
Yeah.
25 minutes of the film for free
Yeah.
so people could get an understanding of what this was. And again, 20th was positioning this film as this kind of massive 4-quad science fiction blockbuster, action-packed, toy-buying experience for kids.
Yeah.
And that's not what the movie really is about.
Right.
The movie is much deeper. It has a much greater ethos. There's a real underlying sense of, every person on the planet can essentially place themselves in one way, shape, size, or form into the Avatar world, how they see themselves from a personal perspective, a cultural perspective, a world perspective. And it just didn't make sense or resonate with the full court press, everything and anything merchandising strategy, which is why we were very laser focused and continue to be moving forward with the sequels from Avatar, The Way of Water and Avatar, Fire and Ash, where we really want to make product for our fans and our consumers that we know is going to resonate or make sense within the individual markets.
Yes.
Globally, consumer products, one size does not fit all. So we have to understand that you have to kind of cater to the markets and make sure that they understand that they're being seen in Avatar parlance. So we're not just going out and saying, here's just landfill,
Right.
because that's not what Avatar's about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I find myself repeating the same thing to many people where they talk about things like merchandise or things like that, and I'm like, the whole point of the movie is to move away from that. Like, that's the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
It should be consistent in a way.
Working with Disney and at 20th, merchandising is a part of life now, and that also helps continue the life cycle of the particular intellectual property. Success begets success, and you just have to keep going. So it's something that we can't not do, but we can be very measured, and we can be very prescribed, and we can be very, very informed about the partners that we want to go with, and kind of the level of detail that we want to include within our deals.
Yes.
Inclusive of being, is there an eco-consciousness or an eco-sensitivity in your manufacturing process that we can leverage somehow?
Right.
Great. I'd rather do that than go with somebody over here that just, is all about plastic.
Mhm.
So there's a delicate balance in that we talk to our partners to say what's best for us as a brand.
Mhm.
And that's why, we don't have 10 million pounds of stuff out in the marketplace.
Right. I guess it's one of the funniest part, like one of the contradictions of Avatar is that it's this multi-billion-dollar blockbuster and franchise, but the themes and the message of the movie almost go like against it in that way. But also, it's the key to its success. I think that's one of the reasons why it resonates so broadly across the world.
Very much
The
so.
themes are like again. I loved every time John Landau would talk about the themes of the movie, that like the family themes, the themes of
Yes.
the caring about nature, having a connection with it.
Mhm.
Like we would laugh because I guess as fans we would see those all the time, so you end up hearing and remembering exactly the
Yeah.
lines that you would say. So he's like big heart and family themes, which
Oh, yeah.
kind of became a meme like between a lot of us, where that's what he's talking about and that's how he describes it. But when you look at even the box office and you look at domestic and international, there's a reason that Avatar's this behemoth around the world.
Mhm.
Everyone seems to
Yeah.
understand and get the message. So I fully appreciate and get why that's the thing. But I also
Yeah.
guess it must mean that for your job, it's like a level of complexity and difficulty that you might not get in a similar franchise elsewhere,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I've like so much junk at the house. It's painful. My wife can't stand it. There is a divide between public persona
Mm,
and a public facing
Yeah.
persona
Yeah.
and what you want to show to
Oh,
the world
yeah.
and work.
yes.
The work life balance is important.
Uh-huh.
And it's not,
Yeah.
Lightstorm is my job and I work on the Avatar
Yeah.
brand and I get to do fun stuff like
Yeah.
come here and
Yeah.
meet great people and go to the premiere and go do fun
Yeah.
things. But the thing that matters to me as personally, my wife, my daughter, my
Yeah.
hobbies,
Yeah.
being like, that's the stuff that
Yeah.
that's the community that I have
Right.
I have founded and cultivated for
Yeah.
myself
Uh-huh.
is that community. I haven't, Avatar is part of my life, but that is not the community
Yes.
that I have grown up
Yeah.
within inside the kind of like toy comic,
Yeah.
my personal fandom.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like Alan Moore, right? Yeah. That exactly the point.
Yeah, I bought Watchmen when it came out, floppies when it came out. Like I was buying them back in the day. Like I've been in this life since I was 7,
Yeah.
41 years ago. I've been into this, buying comics and toys and like that's just my jam.
It's funny you say that because I feel like I know how you feel in a sense, because for me, like the reason that I started like the Avatar guys channel and actually, so you were one of the earliest people to ever comment on any of my videos.
Really?
Yeah, because you were commenting on the videos when they were getting like
Did not know
a
that.
few hundred views. I remember I did a review of one of like the early in fact I think it was maybe Brotherhood,
Okay.
right? And you did a comment, and I didn't know who you were. Like I just remember being like, not like someone's actually watching the videos. This is really nice that you could see. And
Right.
and I was like, nice. And I literally didn't know who you were, and then only later did it like trigger in my mind that you were actually looking. And even some of the people who reached out. So like one of the people who worked on the movies,
Mhm.
he sent me like one of the patches that they,
Oh,
they
nice.
have on the
Yeah.
and someone else sent me a hat.
Nice.
So I've got a cat
Very
from
cool.
the cast and the crew and one of the badges.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'm from New Zealand as well, right? So like,
Right on.
I was that's like the really touching stuff to me. But to your point about the community that you make is, for me, I'm like James Cameron fan because I watched Aliens when I was 12. And
Yeah, I was 10.
I loved
9. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me,
Blew
like
my mind.
absolutely, like
Good job, Dad.
right.
Take you to see that
Every-
movie when
every-
you're 9.
Every kid should see those movies. I feel like you see Terminator, you see Terminator 2, you see Aliens, and
Oh, yeah.
like, it's going to give you like a great foundation.
I think I saw Cronenberg's Fly that year too in the theater.
Oh.
That was a real smart one. Like, what are you doing, Dad? What are you doing?
Yeah, like so, and
But it's formative.
yeah, it's right. So
Very
Aliens,
formative.
Aliens is still my favorite movie. It's
Yeah.
it's the benchmark by
Oh,
which
it's the best.
I look at everything else. Right?
Mhm.
It's that's the thing for me. And like I've made a video about this, and I don't even know if I'll include this, but
You know, I started Alien Day, right?
yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that when I was at Fox.
Yeah.
Because Aliens is such a huge movie for me.
Yeah.
Like, that was, it needed to be
It
celebrated.
should be like all the time. Like it's I don't know. It's just amazing. Like, and then, yeah, Alien Day using the date LE426.
That was one of mine.
Genius, right? Like that's it's those that, I don't know. It's like it's so obvious in hindsight, but
That's why.
why did no one do it?
That's
Right?
why it punched me in the face. I was like, "What are we doing here? Like, what is this?"
Yeah, it's funny. Like, so back to like thing. So James Cameron as like his like who he is. I think he's extremely inspirational just in himself, right? So and that's the thing is that I think he's inspirational for so many people, and that's one of the things that we've got through just the Avatar community in general. That there's people who are fans of Avatar, and they probably wouldn't know who James Cameron is walking down the street. But then there's fans who are fans of James Cameron, and it was one of the nice things about going to the exhibition was that the kinds of people you meet. You know, like there's doctors, there's like guys who work in film, there's like people who are just like completely ordinary, and they're all inspired in different ways by his story or his just like work ethic. That's the big one for me. Is that for me, like I grew up and I read about. I guess I don't even know when it would have been. It would have been like in earlier 2000s when I was reading about Titanic, and everyone thought it was going to fail. And I read this magazine article about this guy called James Cameron and how against insurmountable odds he'd managed to achieve this goal. And that like opened my world. Like I remember sitting in the library reading this magazine about this guy, and being like, oh my god, like this it's changed my actual perception of the reality itself. And then later on, I was like, oh, this is the guy who made Aliens. And like you make the connection in your head, and so part of me always thinks that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a James Cameron fan, and there's people who are much bigger Avatar fans than I am. It was just such that I was like, I'm passionate about the Avatar movies. I think they don't get the credit they deserve. There's no one on YouTube making anything about these, things. I was like looking for people to discuss it. And I was like, well, you're somebody, what would Jim do? Like, just go and, make something. And like over time, progressing it and trying to build bigger things and trying to bring it to more people. And it's the same thing with like, there was, I think at the time when we created the Discord, there was a Learn Navi community, but there wasn't an Avatar community, for general fans. And I think some of the earliest people were definitely James Cameron fans as well, from his legacy. And it's one of those things where I like, oh yeah, it's Avatar guy. And when we were in France, people came up to me who I didn't know. I was like, oh yeah, you're Avatar guy. And I was like, hi. And then they would ask me certain things. I'd be like, I actually don't know about that one. That's a really good question. So I think the persona, even the YouTube persona versus who I am, it's two like completely different things. So I can appreciate that. It's funny, isn't it? Like when you have all that information in your head, you like that's his job. It's one of the things as well that sometimes I think when you get questions, people don't like it's they don't appreciate it. But no, I think I can completely relate to that in terms of the division between what you really love and you would do forever for free versus what you think is okay. I need to stay on top of this and this needs to be interesting, But so I completely get that. When you think about 2009 when Avatar came out, like the iPhone was 2 years old, and when in 2030, who knows where we're going to be? Like with AI and all these things.
Jim is a futurist, always has been.
Right.
And the scripts are written to be universal and to be kind of for all time.
Yes.
They're not supposed to be a moment in time. And they do take place, in 2060 something, 2070 something. They're in the deep future. And they are on a moon 4.6 light years away with alien blue cat people.
Right.
So it's not like this is something where we're trying to. It's not like it's not like Minority Report where it's like a near future.
Yes.
I'm trying to be prescient about the future of technology. He's telling a really broad, really big kind of metaphoric parable story about the ecosystem and the world, and those kind of global macro messages of community and family and ecology and reclamation and taking care of each other, taking care of your planet. Those don't go out of style.
Yes.
Those do not ever. Those will never go away. You'll be able to watch these movies in 10, 15, 30, 25, 50, 100 years.
Yes.
And our planet and our people will still probably be struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
Sadly. So you'll still have those giant, big, like play to the back row themes of family and belonging and found family and adoption and immigration and like and corporation versus the native. That
Yes.
we've been telling those stories collectively as a people for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Colonialization is not new.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like
it's been going
these
on.
stories don't get old.
Yes.
And that's Jim. The magic of Jim is you can watch Aliens, and that's an amazing science fiction epic. It's a story about mothers and daughters.
Yes.
You can watch Titanic, and it is a disaster epic. It's a love story.
Mhm.
You'll watch Avatar, and it's a story of family and overcoming and belonging. And it was that in 2009, and it was it in 2020, and it's
Yeah.
going to be that way in 2025. It will be that way forever.
Yes.
And that's Jim's storytelling magic.
I think your answer is much better than my question. I think that
I got you.
Yeah,
I see you.
You felt the
I see you.
the
I do.
nature of the question.
I got
In
you.
fact, yesterday the Terminator was the 40th anniversary.
I know.
Of Terminator.
I
right?
know.
And
Amazing.
The fact that they don't age.
They don't. And
So-
that's Jim's magic.
I don't think I do not believe. Yeah, he's not made a movie that feels like it's aged like visually or thematically at all.
100%.
Even like
Hard agree.
even with Avatar, you
Mhm.
watch it, and every single thing about it is that those stories. You're right; they're parables.
Yep.
He would have been like some soothsayer, like the parables for all time. And I think you're right. Avatar doesn't. It won't fall into that trap. Of
Exactly.
being something where you kind of
Agreed.
it's very much of its age and time. Yeah, it's not
It's timeless.
It's timeless. Yeah, and that again, part of the
Same as
reason why-
Titanic, same as Aliens, same as The Abyss. Like, those are timeless films.
Yes.
Because they speak to timeless, emotional, meaningful stories.
Yes. Yeah. So thanks, Josh. Thanks for having the Q&A with us.
Pleasure was absolutely
Like,
mine. Thank
it's-
you for
it's
having me.
Absolutely amazing to finally meet you in the flesh.
Glad we could do it.
And we look forward to the sequels and all the future work that you're going to do.
Everything is going to be, it's going to be a lot of fun. There's some amazing things coming. Our partners at Disney are doing some unbelievable things for Avatar Fire and Ash. And we really have some unbelievable things planned for the future of the Avatar franchise. I'm very excited for everybody to see it.
We can't wait.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.